Hey YouTube, how are you? I got into firearms just about a year ago. July of 2010 is when I bought my first weapon, a Mossberg shotgun for home defense, a 20-inch barrel, just a basic Mossberg 500, 8+1. And then shortly after that, I'd always been interested in owning a 1911, and my first handgun was a Kimber Custom 2, just the basic entry-level 1911 from Kimber. And just like my friend told me, it's like the Lay's potato chips. You can't have just one. And every couple of months, when I could, I bought another firearm, usually a semi-automatic. And I've kind of turned it into basically from home protection and self-defense to kind of a hobby. And I've been really happy building up my collection. I just recently got into the military surplus rifles, the curios and relics, but what I didn't have in my collection was a revolver. And even though I'm very partial to semi-autos, I knew that I wanted one, at least one, and this is probably going to be the only one that I buy. I knew I wanted at least one revolver in my collection. And this is not brand new. I bought this back in February, but I thought I would share it with you, just kind of share my collection with you. I don't have the fanciest or most expensive collection in the YouTube gun community, but the stuff that I buy, I try to do some research first, try to get good, high-quality firearms that are within my budget, and after I did some research, I ended up choosing the Ruger GP100. It's a 4-inch barrel, 357 Magnum. Oh, excuse me. I always liked the look of stainless steel in a revolver, so I got the stainless steel. Turn this over for you. And it's just a nice, solid 357 revolver. Of course, it can shoot 38 specials with no problem, 38 plus Ps as well. But for my purposes, I wanted to, I bought a Magnum and I wanted to get the most out of it. So after I did some research and I ended up with the Ruger, I did a little bit more research, and let me show you what I got for the ammo. Yeah, so as I was saying, I wanted to get a full power or full house 357 load to practice with, because as nice as it is to shoot 38s, especially in a heavy gun like this gun, I don't have the exact specifications on me right now, but it's noticeably heavier than my 1911s, and those are usually about 40 to 42 ounces. This gun's got to be 50 ounces easily, but don't quote me on that. I'm not sure, but it feels like it could easily be 50 ounces. When you're shooting a 38, it's not, I wouldn't say it's like shooting a 22, but it's probably, in a gun this heavy with that nice Hogue grip that sucks up a lot of the recoil, it feels like maybe like a light 9mm load, so it's very comfortable. But I'm a firm believer in practicing how you play or how you train, and so I got these Remington UMCs. The part number is, well, it's right there for you, L357M12. It's the 125 grain jacketed soft point, and I do use this as my practice ammo. It's pretty hot. I believe it's at least 1,400 feet per second, and it blasts like you wouldn't believe. It's quite fun to shoot. I'm not usually a fan of Remington UMC ammunition. I had tried them out early on with my 1911, and they do tend to run pretty dirty. I was kind of surprised for a domestic, one of the big domestic ammunition and firearms companies. They make some pretty dirty practice ammo, but the nice thing about a revolver is that it's not too difficult to clean, so I use this, and I've been pretty happy with it. Like I said, it's a bit dirty, but I got over it. So let me just hold this up for you. This is your 357, and here is the 38 Special in comparison. And you can see that 357 is just a bit taller, a little bit longer, and it doesn't seem like much, that little maybe quarter-inch difference in length, but you'd be surprised how much more power the 357 has over its weaker 38 Special brother load. So this is what I use for the practice, and I don't really use this revolver for self-defense or home defense, basically for two reasons. The most important reason is I don't have enough trigger time, and I haven't trained enough with a revolver to really feel that comfortable to use it to protect myself. I mean, if I had to, I suppose I could, but it wouldn't be my first choice. If I had something like a home invasion situation, if I had time, the first thing I would get would be my shotgun. If I didn't have time and I had to just grab something right away, I would get one of my semi-autos. My Kimbra has a little Crimson Trace laser on it that's pretty well sighted in, and I would probably reach for that, or one of my Glocks or my HK. So this would not be the first thing that I reached for. The second reason is that I live in an apartment, and the walls are not very thick, and with loads coming out of this gun, the loads that I bought, they're quite hot, and I'd be concerned about over penetration, or just flat out missing and having a round go and injure my neighbors. So those are the big two reasons. But it's a great gun to take to the range and practice with. Having said that, I did want to at least have some kind of self-defense ammo. And after doing some research, mostly from this gentleman right here. Now please, I'm not an expert. By no means am I an expert. But Mas Ayub, this man is definitely an expert when it comes to self-defense and firearms and all those kinds of issues. So I consulted this book, and in this book, he says that the closest thing that there is to a magic bullet is the 125 grain semi-jacketed hollow point 357 Magnum. And there are 3 loads that he recommends the most. And this is the first that I read. And it's not a new load. It's actually a pretty old cartridge. It's the classic Federal 125 grain semi-jacketed hollow point. If you were to try to buy it, there's your part number right there, C357B. And according to Mas Ayub, this load and the ones that are similar from Winchester and Remington, when 357 revolvers were used in law enforcement, these loads had about a 95% one-shot stop rate. So 90+% of the time, one shot was all it would take to bring down a bad guy. So they were pretty hard to find. Literally, it took me about an hour and a half of looking online to find them, but I finally did from some small retailer. I don't recall the name. You can find these, but they're either sold out or they're not available. But if you can find them, they're one of the best Magnum loads that you can get. The other one that's a lot easier to find is the Remington semi-jacketed hollow point. It's the plain. It's not the UMC, but the green and yellow box, I believe, Express. And yeah, just get the 125 grain semi-jacketed hollow point, and you'll be good. He highly recommends that load as well. So I got some of these just in case, I don't know, zombies come in or something. Like I said, it was more to just add to my collection. I do have some in a speed loader here, but as I mentioned earlier, this is not what I would be reaching for if I had to use a firearm to save my life or my wife's life. But they're kind of nice to have, especially since they're so highly regarded and they're hard to find as well. Alright, so let me just give you one final look here at my revolver. The very solid, very reliable Ruger GP100. Okay. Just to open the cylinder here for you, just to show you that it was safe during the time that this video was made. The cylinder release on these is pretty nice. You just push this latch in. Let me show you the cylinders. Everything's clear. Okay. And you just push here and it pops right open. You know, I'm not going to try to impress you guys with a fancy tabletop review or anything. It's just a nice basic revolver. Gets the job done. It's really accurate. Looks pretty good. You know, is the Smith & Wesson 686 better? Well, you know, one of the main reasons that I chose this was Gun Tests magazine. They gave this revolver an A, and in their most recent, I think it was in March or February in the issue, they had this revolver with its smaller counterpart versus the Smith 686 and its smaller counterpart, and they gave the edge to the Ruger pair. So it's a good gun. The Smith is also an excellent gun. It's a bit more expensive than this. I live in California, so of course my prices are probably a little bit higher than yours. I paid $580 for this, plus the tax and gross. But if you are considering adding a revolver to your collection in .357 Magnum caliber, yeah, I would highly recommend that you put this on your short list and at least go and hold it in a gun store, and even better, if you can rent it at a range, do that, and I'm pretty sure you'll like it. So that's about it. I haven't shot it in a while. I try not to shoot it too much because the ammunition's rather pricey, but it's always fun to take it to the range and kind of mix it up with all the semi-autos that are always there. So that's pretty much it for now. You guys have a good rest of the weekend and stay safe. Thanks.